So the fourth and last pillar is what makes FiNC uniquely FiNC, how we're going to be so trustworthy, how we're building an unprecedented checks and balance system, how can people put so much faith and so much trust into us. We're talking about like completely changing the world. How can they trust us? Well, first off is the fact of how we're going to be employee owned. The best way to just sum it up is we're basically designing a nonprofit cooperative. Yes, there's plenty of nonprofits that are doing wonderful things. They're very ethical, make really good decisions. But the nonprofit system in itself is flawed. The checks and balance of the system is flawed. And I think it's even more apparent than ever. A lot of people know that there's a lot of nonprofits that aren't the best. They might not be able to take profits, but their executives, they'll expense their house, they'll expense their cars. They have massive multi-million-dollar salaries. Yeah, it's a nonprofit, but they just make sure they spend all that profit. So there's nothing left over to be nonprofit. Right now in the current system, the only checks and balances, you have a handful of board of directors. You could pay them whatever you want. And then that's the checks and balance. That's to ensure that no one in the system gets corrupt. What we want to do here at FiNC is make more like a nonprofit cooperative where all the employees are the checks and balance. You guys are the board of directors. And the idea is that I wouldn't be able to control. When you have like 3 or 5 board of directors on a team, you can play with that. Having 40 or hundreds or 1,000 employees, you can't control every single one to make the same decision. I can't buy everyone a gift basket when a vote's coming up to make sure you vote for me in favor. So you guys as the board of director kind of a situation, you guys choose my salary cap. You guys decide if I'm making too much money or how much money I deserve to make. Same with any executives. You guys choose how high these salaries can go. There's going to be different committees, like our expense account. There'll be different committees overseeing the expense account so you can make sure I'm not doing a $10,000 business dinner or buying myself a car or a house. There'll actually be these committees overseeing the funding and making sure everything's on the up and up. And if we made a big decision, we want to go in a certain way, but most of the team is against that. They could bring it up to a vote. It would override the plan. Now, not all of this is fleshed out yet, especially the legal stuff. That's once we get a decent amount of funding coming in. It is going to be a very intricate thing. We're going to need a team of lawyers to build what we're looking to build in total. Probably take a couple years, like 1 to 3 years. We're actually going to build a new corporate structure for society. One is that we want to build an unprecedented trust with America. So we're showing them we're going to build this new unprecedented form of checks and balance. And 2, we're actually going to model this so other organizations can actually follow suit, and it'll be a new corporate structure that others can follow. I didn't know this till recently. The crypto movement, they invented a decentralized autonomous organization. It's a new legal structure of a corporation. They invented that like 5 or 7 years ago. Now everyone can follow suit. There's a precedent. We can make a new corporate structure, do it, and then others can follow it. I'm not sure what it's going to be named, but it's going to be a better system. The idea is a better checks and balance, more transparent, more accountable. We want to hold ourselves to a higher standard than a nonprofit of today. Either way, we could never have been a 501c3. We're too political. We have too much of a voice. We're going to do too much lobbying to be a 501c3. So no matter what, donations were never going to be tax exempt. The same way that donating to a politician is never tax exempt. Now, we could have been a 501c4, which is more of a political nonprofit. There's too many elaborate, multidimensional things that we're trying to do where that label would prevent us from being able to go certain directions, say certain things, shake up the industries in the way we want to shake things up. So we had to go this direction. We want to legally bind ourselves that we are not taking profits. No matter what stage we're in developing this, we are never taking profits. I am never taking profits. We all have set salaries. As soon as possible, as legally capable as possible, we're going to bind ourselves to these promises. We're going to legally promise that we don't take profits. We're going to legally promise that with some of this money, we are going to build this new legal structure. Ultimately, no matter how long it takes, we actually want to get tax exempt status as a new form of a nonprofit. 1 to 3 years is just to make a nonprofit cooperative legal structure, but then to be actually actually recognized as a tax exempt nonprofit type of thing is probably going to take longer than that. But that in itself is one of our many products that we're offering to society. And it's one of the things that are actually essential to us changing the whole world, is doing that new legal structure. Some people that really know what goes on in nonprofits, they love this idea. When I go over our legal structure, their jaw drops. When people really have seen how bad a nonprofit can be and how there really isn't that strong of a checks and balance, they really resonate with the legal structure that I'm referring to. So that is going to catch, as our wide net, that's going to catch certain types of people, certain groups that are going to love that almost above all the other things that we're doing. We want to go from predatory capitalism to ethical capitalism. That's one of the features that will help instill that new shift in the economy. That's what employee owned means. The whole thing is about that checks and balance, doing something that's not corruptible. When I'm successful with all this, we're changing the world and I'm still the founder. You want to make sure it's not going to come to my head. The way my ethical mind works, I'm not really corruptible, but like no one would believe that. And so I have to prove it with legal methods and whatnot. If anything ever happened to me, I need to know that somebody that takes over, that they are not corruptible either. If we don't build a checks and balance for me, I wouldn't feel comfortable that anyone that succeeds me in leadership, that they could be corruptible. Even if my autism prevents me from being corruptible, we still have to build that checks and balance, is the bottom line. I think about those things. I think about like, this needs to succeed whether I'm involved or not. It's so important. We are the viable solution. So something happens to me, I want this to keep carrying on, and the world needs to be changed with or without me.